Hello and welcome to this video where we're going to cover the biggest surprises in LOL Esports in 2022. Yesterday we hit on the negative, the disappointing aspects of the year. Went over teams, some players. I know in the comment section there were world references. Here, biggest surprises, a little bit more of a positive look. Comment down below with your biggest surprise. Keep in mind, everybody's going to say DRX winning worlds. That we're going to that wins biggest surprise. I think that is a clear favorite. But more specifically, what else was a big surprise that when you look back at 2022 and be like, that really took me off guard, right? The unexpected things, like we know DRX. So I'm just going to write DRX down here real quick. More specifically, growth of Zeka and Kingen. More specifically, the growth of Zeka and Kingen. I mean, obviously, throughout Worlds, they were exceptional. Zeka really taking on, let me make sure I'm on screen. I am. Zeka becoming a super carry. I had him in my LCK All-Star teams. I can't emphasize that enough. I thought that he was decent and pretty good domestically going into the event, and thought inexperience was going to be what held him back. It did not. He flourished. Kingen really showed up in the finals. So that, obviously, a big surprise. But Worlds in general, I want to say, when we're talking about Worlds, the Worlds meta was a great surprise. The Worlds meta, the most played champions in Worlds history, and that even occurred without the weird picks of Teemo, Garen, Zillion top lane that we saw out of Isurus and Turkey, so Latin America and Turkey at play-ins. Like, it was just a crazy world in a great meta, maybe the best meta of all time. You cannot find a more diverse champion pool, and going into it, we thought that it was going to be awful. There weren't a lot of changes made in the Worlds patch. It was like, oh my god, are they just kind of resigning themselves to what it was? And it just ended up being anything was on the table. And you cannot, a lot of people like to dog Riot, but at the same time, I think that they have to be real and acknowledge that Riot had a great patch for Worlds. Like, it worked out when it came to the champions in the meta. So that, a great big surprise. Let me think here. What else do I got? Okay, so a couple other things. DRX. I want to say Sandbox. That marker's here. Prince, more specifically. I was exceptionally surprised by Prince in summer. I did not expect anything out of him going into summer. I thought Sandbox was going to be last place. Sandbox went on a crazy run, very competitive throughout the split. A lot to do with him and the meta that allowed him to do very well. Push comes to shove in the playoffs, he doesn't show up. He really, really didn't show up. Now on FlyQuest, but that was a super big surprise, and it kind of goes to show why it is, because now Sandbox, I mean, their roster is going to be nothing like it was in summer, and in terms of firepower, it won't be like that either. So Sandbox is probably back to where they were, which is kind of a shame. What else do we have here for LCK? No real surprises that were like, oh, well, I guess a surprise necessarily doesn't have to be positive. It could just be the general rule of thumb. The amount of 6-man rosters. And that's just in general. Obviously, at Worlds, we saw EDG, DRX, Damwon, Kia, 3 just off the rip there that were regularly using a 6th man in the playoffs. But you also can think of other teams throughout the year that were doing this. And without COVID even being a factor, and it was kind of weird. A lot of like really top tier teams doing things like that, really being willing to swap out players. We saw Top Esports do it a bit as well in the top lane and towards the end of the split. I don't think that's going to stay, but that was a big surprise. What else do we have here? NA-wise, CLG. CLG was a pleasant surprise. CLG, even FlyQuest and Spring. Both of them were surprises. CLG, many people have said and been on the record and said that CLG was the hardest working team in summer, and the results spoke for themselves. And I think that there's something to be said for that, right? We hear about lazy North American players. That's the reason that holds them back, this and that. And it could be true. That is why CLG was where they were in the standings, above and around teams that on paper are better than them, but maybe don't work as hard. And CLG came close to making things interesting at the end, right? Playing well in the playoffs. Very, very competitive. Something's got to be said for that. And FlyQuest and Spring, very similar story. Worked their tail off. Played some weird comps that they know would work. Perfected them. Stole and cheesed some wins. Pleasant surprises there. As far as EU is concerned, nothing really surprised me about EU. EU just became a disaster. So I guess it's like a negative surprise. It's a chaotic mess. So it'd be a disappointment. Negative surprise would be disappointment. But, like G2 Fnatic, pretty standard. I wasn't surprised by their results. XL, somebody had mentioned that they were a disappointment. I thought that they were a pretender the whole time. Vitality, didn't end up positive. The Misfits storyline was fun. Couldn't get it done, though, which was unfortunate. Mad Lions, it's whatever. LPL, biggest surprises. Oh, Thunder Talk. Thunder Talk, I almost forgot. TT. And that's just for me. Thunder Talk is just, that was my team, man. Thinking back to it, like that team with Hoya, Zhao Zhang, and Bechuan, and UCal, and then you got Kepler and Yao Yao. And even with Puff and Southland, they were good. Statistically and analytically, a very good team that just barely couldn't get it done in the end. Very fun team that I was really happy about and rooting for. Surprised me, especially how bad on paper they were, and spring how bad it was. Thought it was going to be problems, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh wow, they're doing really well. They're surprising the hell out of me. Really thinking about the LPL. No one else really surprised me. I guess I had Victory 5 ranked really low in spring, but I think my algorithm messed up. I'm going to have to, thankfully I've watched all the teams play now, so I don't need an algorithm to figure out a power rankings for major regions, but when it started I did have one. The LPL was whatever. The LCK was whatever. The LEC and LCS. I mean, I guess we can put down the VCS. More specifically, Saigon Buffalo. Going into MSI, I had a lot of people saying I didn't know what I was talking about, and I hadn't watched any Vietnam play, so it is what it is. But nevertheless, Saigon Buffalo, more importantly Shogun, really showed up in a big way, played exceptionally. Honestly, another pleasant surprise when we're at it, talking about minor regions, CB Lol, right? CB Lol in Japan. CB Lol in Japan at Worlds played a great tournament. Brazil Red Canids did well during MSI. Detonation Focus Me at Worlds wins over a game over RNG. Like very, very fun things out of these minor regions that we did not expect. Nobody expected Detonation Focus Me to steal a game. Nobody expected Loud to take a game off of Fnatic. The Brants factor. I mean, that was awesome. So really, like, it's hard to pick one. It's like, obviously, I mean, it's not hard to pick one. We know DRX because they won Worlds. It's a Cinderella is a surprise. Everybody except Jason Sandman, that's not a surprise for them. So whatever else they can pick. But as far as to us normies, DRX winning is the surprise. So that's it for this video. Like I said, comment down below what you think is the biggest surprise from this year. Like the video if you like it, subscribe to the channel for daily League of Legends content, follow me on Twitter, join the Discord, become a YouTube member, and thank you for watching.